$65 billion gone. Not because of a crash, not because of bad investing, but because it was never really there in the first place. For decades, Bernard Madoff was one of the most trusted names on Wall Street, a former chairman of NASDAQ, a financial genius in the eyes of billionaires, celebrities, and even banks. People believed their money was growing safely under his control. But behind the scenes, there were no real investments, no secret strategy, just a massive illusion designed to look perfect. And somehow, he kept it going for over 20 years without getting caught. So how did he pull it off? Why did no one stop him when the red flags were right there? And what finally caused the entire thing to collapse almost overnight? In this video, we're breaking down the biggest Ponzi scheme in history and the shocking truth behind the man who fooled the world. If you're into stories like this, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel because we're just getting started.
Fixture on Wall Street, Bernie Madoff, 70 years old, arrested by the FBI.
Wall Street veteran Bernard Madoff has been arrested and charged with running a $50 billion Ponzi scheme. This is one of the biggest fraud cases ever.
Sir, how do you feel?
Early beginnings. Bernie Madoff's story began in 1960 when he started his own investment firm with just $5,000 he earned as a lifeguard and an additional $50,000 from his father-in-law. In today's money, that would be around $480,000. Even though it was a small start, Madoff had big ambitions. He wanted to compete with the largest investment firms on Wall Street and make his mark in the financial world. From the beginning, Madoff embraced technology. At a time when most trades were done by people on the trading floor, he pioneered electronic trading, which allowed his firm to operate faster and at lower costs. This innovation attracted many clients, and at one point, 5 to 10% of all trades in New York went through his firm. When the NASDAQ stock exchange was created in 1971, it brought new opportunities for electronic trading. Madoff quickly adapted and eventually became chairman of the NASDAQ in the early 1990s, a role that gave him enormous respect and credibility in the financial world. On the surface, everything looked perfect. Madoff's firm was growing, his reputation was untouchable, and he seemed like one of Wall Street's brightest stars. But behind this success, a dark secret was quietly taking shape. A secret that would one day shock the entire world. The Ponzi scheme, how it worked. Bernie Madoff's real secret was a Ponzi scheme, but one on a scale the world had never seen before. In a Ponzi scheme, money from new investors is used to pay returns to earlier investors. There are no real profits from actual investments. The money just moves around to create the illusion of success. For decades, Madoff collected billions of dollars from clients all over the world. On paper, investors seemed to earn steady, reliable returns, even when the market was going up and down. But in reality, these profits were completely fake. The money didn't come from smart trading or investments. It was siphoned into Madoff's personal accounts or used to pay earlier investors, keeping the illusion alive. His operation was carefully planned. Employees later revealed that even documents were cooled in refrigerators to hide freshly printed papers from auditors. Madoff was masterful at manipulating appearances and maintaining the trust of clients. Adding to the illusion, the firm also ran a legitimate side business where his sons worked. This made everything look normal and trustworthy to outsiders, helping Madoff continue his massive fraud without raising suspicion for years. Harry Markopolos. Very few people openly questioned Bernie Madoff, but Harry Markopolos, a financial fraud investigator, was one of the rare exceptions. In the late 1990s, Markopolos was working as a portfolio manager at Rampart Investment Management when he noticed something unusual. One of Madoff's funds consistently produced 1 to 2% profits every month, no matter how the market performed. In real-world investing, returns that are consistent are nearly impossible. Markopolos was asked to replicate Madoff's strategy at his own firm. As he worked on it, he quickly realized that something was wrong. Madoff's returns didn't follow normal market patterns. He made profits even when the market fell. Markopolos concluded that either Madoff was trading with insider information or he was running a massive Ponzi scheme. As Markopolos investigated further, he discovered serious mathematical inconsistencies. For instance, Madoff's options trading would have required more contracts than actually existed on the Chicago Board of Options Exchange. Even more suspicious, he could not find a single recorded trade to confirm Madoff's activity. The warning signs were obvious, but proving them was incredibly difficult. Despite these red flags, Madoff's reputation and connections made it almost impossible for anyone to stop him at that time. Warning the authorities. In 2000, Harry Markopolos went to the Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, with his concerns about Bernie Madoff. He had uncovered serious red flags, but he didn't have concrete proof, only strong suspicions that something was wrong. Because of this, the SEC did not open a formal investigation. Even though hundreds of people on Wall Street were suspicious of Madoff, most stayed silent. Many were afraid to speak up, and others were loyal or trusted his reputation. For years, Markopolos continued to raise concerns, sending warnings about inconsistencies and impossible returns, but nothing changed. Madoff remained untouchable. His connections in the financial world, his respected role as a former NASDAQ chairman, and his careful management of appearances kept regulators and investors confident. Despite clear warning signs, the combination of fear, trust, and reputation allowed Madoff to continue his massive Ponzi scheme unchecked for years. The financial crisis and collapse. By 2008, the global economy was in crisis. The subprime mortgage meltdown had wiped out trillions of dollars from stock markets, and panic spread across Wall Street. Investors started withdrawing their money, and Madoff, who relied on new investments to pay earlier clients, suddenly found he could no longer maintain his Ponzi scheme. In a desperate attempt to keep the illusion alive, Madoff created Madoff Securities International in London, hoping to attract new funds. Billionaires invested millions in November and December of 2008, but it was too little, too late. The withdrawals from his accounts far exceeded the money coming in. The carefully built facade of success was crumbling. Madoff realized that there was no way to continue the scheme. Unlike many criminals who try to flee, he chose not to run or hide. He decided to turn himself in, knowing that the empire he had built and the billions he had promised to investors was gone. What had taken decades to create collapsed almost overnight, leaving thousands of investors in shock and financial ruin. Family involvement and confession. Bernie Madoff's sons, Mark and Andrew, worked in the legitimate side of the business, unaware of the massive Ponzi scheme operating alongside it. Just 2 months before Bernie planned to confess, he told them he wanted to distribute an early bonus of nearly $200 million. Confused and worried, the sons asked why such a large payment was needed. For the first time, Bernie revealed the truth. He admitted the Ponzi scheme and told them he planned to turn himself in. Fearing that they could become legally implicated, Mark and Andrew contacted a lawyer and reported their father to authorities before the bonuses were paid out. Soon after, Bernie Madoff was arrested at his home. He was released on bail and placed under house arrest, but the full weight of his crimes was now undeniable. The stress and despair took a toll on the family. On Christmas Day 2008, Bernie and his wife Ruth attempted to overdose on prescription medications. They survived, but the incident showed the immense pressure, fear, and hopelessness that came after decades of deception. For the Madoffs, the empire of wealth and trust had completely collapsed in a matter of weeks. The aftermath: life in prison. Bernie Madoff pleaded guilty to running the largest Ponzi scheme in history, admitting that he had defrauded investors of $65 billion. His victims ranged from wealthy billionaires to ordinary people who had invested their life savings and pensions. The impact of his crimes was felt worldwide, leaving thousands financially ruined and shocked by the scale of deception. Within a few months, Madoff was sentenced to 150 years in prison. He was assigned inmate number 61777-054 and sent to a medium-security prison in North Carolina, where he would spend the rest of his life. The once powerful and respected figure of Wall Street was now reduced to a prisoner living in isolation. The scandal also brought deep personal tragedies for his family. His son Mark Madoff later committed suicide, while his other son, Andrew, died from cancer. His wife, Ruth Madoff, cut all ties with him and lives separately from Bernie. Today, Bernie Madoff spends his days alone, with very limited contact with the outside world, a far cry from the respected financial leader he once appeared to be. The story stands as a powerful reminder of the devastating consequences of greed and deception. Lessons from the Madoff scandal. Bernie Madoff's story teaches us important lessons about greed, trust, and vigilance in the world of finance. First, it shows that greed can corrupt anyone. Even people who are widely respected can be driven to deceive if the temptation is strong enough. Second, it highlights the importance of due diligence. Investors cannot rely on reputation alone. They need to carefully check facts and understand where their money is going. Third, the scandal reveals that regulation isn't always enough. Blindly trusting regulators or established institutions can leave people vulnerable to fraud. Finally, it emphasizes that transparency is key. Honest and open communication within companies can prevent deception from growing. Overconfidence also played a role, as many believed Madoff's reputation alone guaranteed safety. This misplaced trust allowed the Ponzi scheme to expand unchecked for decades, leaving a lasting lesson about caution and awareness in finance. Conclusion. Bernie Madoff's story is a powerful reminder of how brilliance can be twisted by greed. He created a firm admired across Wall Street, changed the way trading worked, and earned the trust of investors around the world. But behind the success and impressive numbers was a massive deception that destroyed lives and wiped out billions of dollars. His Ponzi scheme remains the largest in history, teaching us important lessons about honesty, transparency, and the need to question even the most trusted figures. What can we learn from Madoff's rise and fall? Could something like this happen again? And how can investors protect themselves in today's complex financial world? If this story gave you insights into finance, greed, and the importance of vigilance, make sure to like this video and subscribe to Project Meltdown. Stay tuned for more deep dives into finance, business, and technology stories that shaped our world.